Happy Halloween there, Hill folk. Welcome back to Appalachian Intelligence. We're super thankful that you guys have decided to join us again for another week, for another episode, and most importantly, here on Halloween Day or Halloween Day.
Happy Halloween, hill folk. My favorite holiday of the season.
Oh yeah, mine too. Mine too.
Wait a minute. I meant year, not season. It's the only holiday of this season.
They probably understood what you
You
meant.
probably you get what you get it.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. No, we're really glad that you guys are back to join us. We're really glad that we get to celebrate Halloween together here today. Um, we're diving into a really interesting topic. Well, first, a really interesting, we'll say, urban legend, and that will or should lead conversationally into a pretty wide range topic. Uh, but before we get into all of that, just want to share a little bit of business. I feel like I'm stealing from Steve and Kyle every time I start saying get into the business.
Let's get into the business.
I'm gonna have
Well,
to,
we can't say rigmarole because Drew Blood says that now for the rigmarole.
yeah. So
Oh,
we're gonna
by
have
the way, people, Drew Blood's Dark Tales, go check out that podcast. It's amazing. He's really good
yeah.
voice artist.
I still need to check that one out myself.
Oh, dude, it's amazing. He's funny. His soundbite has its own fan club.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Pretty good for a soundbite.
Yeah.
It's a crocodile named Chester.
Maybe we need a crocodile, or maybe we need a possum.
Oh,
Be a
shit.
callback to our first episode.
Listen, there's things everybody thinks they're nasty, but they're impervious to like rabies and all that. Like they're one of the cleanest animals out there.
Yeah, they make a great pet,
But they are
minus the
disgusting looking little creatures. Like,
minus the razor sharp teeth and the constantly getting into your trash and
I mean, that's how you know God. He looks out for you, right? I mean, he
yeah.
made them ugly as fuck. Nobody wants to touch them. Nobody wants to be around them. But he's also like, all right, so you never get any kind of disease. You're fine. Just you're gonna get run over
Yeah.
a lot. Because I get your
Yeah.
incredibly small brains as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. But no, man, it's we're really happy to be here. Did you hear me stutter there?
Today, Junior.
But jumping into when we get these 5-star reviews, we love to share them. So we'll be sharing a couple with y'all today. The first one comes from Birch Knob Believer. It says a taste of home. Former Clintwood native and had more than a few unexplainable experiences in those mountains. Absolutely love the show. Keep up the fine work, fellers. So Birch Knob Believer, we really appreciate you. And
Thank you,
as a
sir or ma'am.
as a former Clintwood native, I'm sure you have had quite a few unexplainable experiences because that's why we're doing this show. That's why we're doing it, because a lot of weird happens right here at home. So we appreciate you. We appreciate that review. This next one I'm going to share is maybe my favorite review yet. No offense to anybody else out there that has left a review, because God knows we appreciate every single one of them.
For sure.
But I really like this one. This one comes from 82 Verge. It says Ryan loves his gummies. It says these guys are awesome. I love the format, and Ryan is hilarious on his gummies. This podcast is truly unique and pro out the gate. Each host adds his own flavor to the show. So 82 Verge, you're right. Ryan gets hilarious when he's in altered states of consciousness, but Ryan's hilarious when he's sober too. Ryan's just a hilarious dude.
Yeah, you guys should talk to me when I'm sober. I'm a delightful person, actually, to be around. I'm going to be a lot more talkative tonight, 82 Verge. It's not because of the gummies. It's because for this special Halloween episode, Orion, for the first time ever, is tripping his balls off right now on psilocybin cubensis magic mushrooms. And I have to say, folks, I don't understand why they're illegal.
I think you just cut. I don't know if you cut out on your end but you cut completely out on my end.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do I need to hold the microphone like we talked about?
Maybe.
Is this better? Like I feel better now because
you sound fine.
I'm sitting back. Like, do I sound better with the microphone up here?
Yeah, you sound great.
Oh well, shit, yeah. Let's go with this. Listen, I took magic mushrooms, guys. It's not gummies tonight, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm fidgety. I've never ever done mushrooms in my life, and every few minutes, I don't know, I'm cold and then I'm hot and then I want to stand up and then I want to go do 80 laps around the building outside and come back in. And when I think about doing any of that, it makes me sick. So I don't know what to do. I'm just going to talk a lot.
So, Hill folk, you're just going to ride this magic mushroom train with Ryan tonight and just see how it goes. You guys are going to be witness.
Yeah. We don't know where we're going to end up. This is the greatest part. We don't know where we're going to go. And if I just start randomly laughing, I can't help it either because I get the giggles too. So,
and another thing, not to steer completely away from Ryan's mushroom talk, but another thing that I want to share before we dive into the meat of the episode today, I don't want to forget this at all.
This is very important. So I'm gonna mute myself for a minute.
We do this show. We do it. Me and Ryan and Lance. We do this show to almost have a reprieve. To take a break from the real world, from life, from all the things that are constantly going on. No matter what they are. You guys know. I mean, it's constantly your social media, the news, the things in your life. Nobody has it. It's not a fairy tale. Some days are really hard and you're constantly being bombarded with negative information all the time. So we do this show to make it in a reprieve, a getaway. And yeah, we do get into some dark conversations and all this different stuff, but it's a place that we can all come together and just think about the possibilities of what could be out there, what people could be experiencing, all these things. So on here, we don't talk about our personal lives very much. I mean, you Hill folk know that we're married, that we have kids, that, where we work and what we do, the general things. But I recently made an appearance on a podcast. The podcast is called Energy in Action, and it's by and under the banner of Mito Action, which is an organization. My youngest daughter, Riley, she suffers from a rare mitochondrial disorder called ECHS1. It's so rare that there's only approximately 50 to 60 cases worldwide that are documented. So, it's something that we're constantly battling and learning. And, some days are really, really bad for her, which in turn, makes it really, really hard on the entire family. But what Stephanie does on this Energy in Action podcast is she brings all sorts of people on. She brings, people that do suffer from rare diseases. She brings on family members of people that suffer from these rare diseases. She brings on scientists. She brings on people in the field. She brings on people that are studying in gene therapy. So you guys, if you want to know more about my daughter Riley's condition, you want to see a little bit behind the curtain into more of my personal life, we'll say, you can go check out my interview on Energy in Action podcast, hosted by Stephanie Tomlinson. That episode will drop on November the 2nd. So go check her out. Go check out what she's doing, because what she is doing is extremely important. It's a therapeutic space for people to go and hear and share and learn, and to know and understand that what you're going through, either as a person or as a loving, caring member for these people with rare diseases, you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone in doing it.
Exactly.
That makes a world of difference.
It does, man.
And which I just want to throw out there, you and Monica are never going to be alone around here.
Well, no, and we know that.
Yeah. I know you guys put in the work. You guys go through it in the day in, day out. But, you know, we're always going to have you, because
yeah,
if it gets to where you're going to kill the whole family, you can bring them over here for a couple of hours. I'm fine with that. But that's it.
Well, it won't ever get to that point.
No, I'm obviously joking. That's
yeah. Obviously, they know about this.
I guess that comes in bad taste about this time when that dude just shot his freaking lover up with her, who was pregnant with his baby.
Yeah,
right down the road here.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That is a rarity where we're from.
It is.
People just don't get murdered here. I mean,
terrible situation. Terrible.
That we know of.
But yeah, you guys, you heal folk, if you want to see a little more into that, go check out that episode on Energy in Action podcast. Or, you know, if you just don't get enough of this sweet, sultry, twangy, hillbilly accented voice, you can go listen to it there too. I'm pretty sure I even mentioned you heal folk a couple times.
Sweet. You know you're gonna drop the hill folk. Listen, am I making too much noise holding the microphone?
No, you're fine as long as you don't like beat around everywhere.
Am I beating around everywhere too much?
No, you're good, man.
I'm going to be animated as I move. You know that. But this is okay, right?
Yeah, you're fine.
It's actually working out better so I can be animated and I'm still close to the microphone, I think.
Yeah, it works.
But, well, sorry we bored you with that, hill folk. But anywho, what we were talking about, what I was going to say, just tune into that podcast if you or anybody in your family you know of or anything, you know, you take care of somebody. That's real. The caretaker's distress is real.
Yeah.
I watch my wife daily with her grandmother, whom she loves. I believe she'd choose her grandmother over me. But I also, in the same instance, watch her every day she's consumed by it. It's her life. It's nursing school, 3 kids, her grandmother. Now, I do all I can to help. You guys know that. Like, I cook, I clean, I do everything I can to help, but it's nothing. It's not even a drop in a hat to what she does. And I watch her every day. Like, she needs a release every once in a while. Like, we got to go out of town. We got to get away because it's real. So just go over that podcast, guys. See if you can get some mental stress, mental health awareness. It should be it's a real thing. Like, there's no shame.
Yeah, go check her out. Stephanie was a great host. She was so nice and compassionate and generous. And she was a mother of a special needs child and person with a rare disease. So she knows what she's talking about. She understands where you're coming from when you're speaking about it. And for me, it was an extremely therapeutic conversation to be able to sit down and share with somebody other than people that already know the situation. But we'll jump into the meat of the story. We'll jump into why you guys are here.
Yeah.
It's Halloween, baby.
Let's get sexy. Oh, spooky. Let's get spooky.
We can be both. We can be spooky.
Just got sexy.
It
just got sexy.
Did somebody say let's get sexy?
I did, and you came in at such a perfect time. You blew my mind just then. You with your Chicago Bears hat.
We're gonna get spexy.
I'm kidding, folks. He teaches at a high school called Central.
Folks, I'll be in and out here for the next few minutes. A few things going on here at the Compton Estates. A few things happening around here. I'll be back soon.
Prayers for the Comptons,
but
tonight,
not miss an episode. I will. One thing about me, I may be late, but I'll always be here.
Yeah,
It's a good tagline. And he's gone again, folks.
bye.
All right, so let's jump into this thing, Ryan. We've been sitting here rambling for like 15 minutes now.
I know what you're talking about, rambling.
All
Let's
right,
do it.
So it's Halloween. We at this point, whenever this drops, my kids are already going to be in their Halloween costumes for the 4th time this season, which is awesome. I got candy coming out the wazoo around here. But I'm interested to know what's some things in the Ratliff household that are tradition, like traditional Halloween every year. You got to do it.
Well, for me, it's begging my wife and kids to go do Halloween things because they could give a shit less. I'm the only person in my house that's sad but true. I'm the only person in my house that like they'll watch like Halloween movies, things like that. And when they were little, they'd go trick or treating. Like now they'll go to Campaween or whatever. And if I ask them to, they'd wear a costume. But there's no tradition in our household. We're just a bunch of fucking punks running around. We have no traditions. There's no stability. It's just a bunch of 5 crazy fucking Ratliffs in this world just doing their own thing is what it seems like sometimes.
All helter skelter.
It's because they've grown up on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're their own person now, and I don't know how to deal with all that sometimes. And I'm like, and they're so much different from each other. Shit. It was so much easier when you were little and I could just be fun dad and I'd tickle you.
Yeah.
Let me just give you a tickle and play with you, watch cartoons with you, freaking play video games with you. Now it's so much stuff going on, man. It's mind melting.
Oh yeah. I
wouldn't trade it for the world because I have the best relationship with my kids now than I ever have. So
that's good. That's great. But and that's one thing too. As they get older, it is like that. Like you watch them grow up, you watch them become their own person and become unique in certain things. But same way with me and my 2 older kids. Like I feel like you get closer as they get older. Like you become you're still the parent, but it's not so much of, hey, get off that. Hey, get down from there. Hey, don't do this. Hey, don't. It becomes more of a, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about
exactly.
All these different.
We're no longer in scolding mode.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a grown ass person right now. Let's just sit down. Let's talk this out.
We're gonna talk like 2 grown people.
Yeah, talk to me like you would your friend. No, they can't talk to my wife like that. They don't fly.
Yeah.
But with me, I'm that parent that's like, whatever. I know what you fucking do at school. I know how you talk. I've read your fucking text messages, Emma. You got a potty mouth. You need to calm that shit down. Your mother's teaching you terrible things.
I wonder where that potty mouth comes from.
Hey, fucking mom. That's
all right. So what's your favorite Halloween movie? You got to sit down and watch one movie on Halloween Day. What's it going to be?
It's easy for me. And it's also my favorite Christmas movie. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's a dual thing there, but it goes for me for both. I'm a Jack the Pumpkin King kind of guy. Just that movie's perfection for me on Halloween, and Christmas.
Well, you're going to be pretty proud of your little girl Riley because that's what she's been watching for the last couple days.
Oh man, I'm telling you, dude. Oh freaking, what's his name? Tim Burton, man. Dude's a genius.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's like
Absolute
he's like
genius.
the Edgar Allan Poe of our time. Like,
Well, for me, I definitely do. I do love Nightmare Before Christmas, but every year, and I've done this probably every year for the last decade at least, I have to watch John Carpenter's original version, 1978 version of Halloween.
oh yeah,
Have to.
young
Michael Myers.
Jamie Presley,
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Jamie Presley. Jamie Presley's hot too. Don't get me wrong. It's,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, you can keep holding the mic, but you're literally beating it around everywhere.
it's this thing.
Yeah, I know.
Hold
It's
on,
making
I'm
a
gonna
whole
fix- Hold on, I'm
It's
gonna
making a whole lot of noise. So, since we're talking about the 1978 John Carpenter version of Halloween, that's what we're going to be looking at today, Hill folk. I know it's taken us a long time to get into the meat here, and I'm really sorry for that. I apologize. We got a lot going on. We got a lot going on, a lot of stuff to share, and Ryan's on shrooms, and he doesn't know what to do with his hands.
check,
So,
check.
yeah, you're good. You're good.
It's not beating around now. It's just like a like a ESPN analyst right now.
Yeah, that's what you are.
So, Justin, tell us about this. Every Halloween, you listen to Mike Myers. Oh, you watched the Halloween episode, 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween.
That's it. That's it.
That's
So
another one,
today-
John Carpenter. Damn.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah, he is. So today
So-
you're going to tell us. He says it's not because of this.
Right.
He
Well,
didn't draw inspiration from this.
I don't know that he has ever been asked about this personally,
Yeah.
but I know this urban legend. Well, obviously, like we've talked about before, it didn't really come around until the rise of the internet. So it's one of those things. Were people talking about it, or did it just gain traction, once it became viewable on the internet?
Yeah.
But there is like I said, we'll call it an urban legend because and I've done some digging on this. Today, we're going to be looking at what some say may possibly be the inspiration for Michael Myers, the character on Halloween. We'll jump right in it. And
Hey, dude. I think
Story.
you're freezing up, or is that me?
that may be me.
I just wanted, before you got into the meat of your story, I want to let you know.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, that might have been me.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to get into it. This is coming from the morbidlibrary.com. It's where this article, story, post, whatever you want to call it. It's where this comes from. And it says, sometime in 1912, two baby boys were born on the same day. One was to the Stiers family, who named their son Stanley. The other family is unknown. At the hospital, a nurse switched the babies. Some say it was an experiment to see if the families would notice. Others say it was just for her own enjoyment. Unfortunately, the unnamed family perished in a car accident on their way home from the hospital. Soon, the Stiers discovered the baby they came home with was not theirs, and their real son had died in the car accident. Towards Stanley, they began drinking to numb the pain of this realization and began to abuse Stanley. The Stiers family had a daughter named Susie a few years later. They continuing to abuse Stanley. Eventually, even young Susie contributed to the abuse. Around Halloween in 1923, Stanley desperately wanted to go trick-or-treating. However, because Susie also did not want to go, he was forced to stay home. That night, Susie was allowed to go to a party while Stanley suffered alone in his room. Apparently, Stanley then snapped. He waited for Susie to get home before grabbing a butcher knife and stabbing both her and their parents to death. He stayed in the house with their dead bodies and went trick-or-treating the next day. While out trick-or-treating, he encountered a group of kids that made his life hell at school. So he attacked them with the butcher knife as well, killing some and wounding others. Someone ran to call the police, and when they finally found Stanley, he was swinging on a swing set, eating his trick-or-treat candy. Stanley was then sent to a psychiatric hospital, though they could find nothing wrong with him. 13 years after he was admitted to the hospital, he escaped by snapping the necks of the orderlies who were in charge of him. At this point, he stood at 6'4" tall and had what seemed to be superhuman strength. Another orderly reported his escape, and the police attempted to stop him in the facility's parking lot. They tried shooting him, but their bullets hardly slowed him down. He apparently walked off into the night, never to be seen again. So,
Okay.
if that sounds familiar,
So if he didn't draw inspiration from this story, some really big coincidences here.
yeah. Now,
especially with the hated sister.
Yep. But now this is saying that there's any truth to this story at all, because I've done a lot of digging on this story. And now, you know me, I believe, I say all the time, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
But I've done a whole lot of digging. I can't find any newspaper articles. I can't find any historical reference to Stanley Stiers or the things that transpired here. I can't find it anywhere. Can't find nothing on it. Now, this did happen in the allegedly happened in the early 1920s. It was a different time then. We're talking 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a completely different time. So, I don't know if the documentation would have been kept. Maybe it was one of those, okay, this is a small town kind of thing. We don't really want this kind of press getting out there. Maybe it was one of those.
I feel like it would have been front page news. That I feel like, dude, I'm so messed up on mushrooms. I forgot I won't even hold my microphone. I feel like that would be front page news.
Right. Yeah. You would think
if
so.
it happened in this little town, that's all you would hear about. It'd be on Facebook these days. It'd be front page news. What are they? WCYB, WJHL, every freaking news channel from here to Pennsylvania would be on that shit.
Yeah.
That'd make national news.
Yeah.
That even in the 1920s, I feel like that would have made national news. Every radio program.
Well, you would think so, but it's one of those things. Like I said, it's 100 years ago. We know how much stuff falls by the wayside or gets lost, or all this different stuff.
Did John Carpenter use his money to have the story buried so they couldn't say that's where he got his inspiration from?
Now, John Carpenter,
conspiracy side to it.
John Carpenter was asked in a kind of like behind the scenes. I think it was actually called like Halloween, the Final Cut, or something like that. He was asked in an interview where the inspiration for Michael Myers came from, and what Carpenter talked about.
Dude, do you hear that?
No.
Oh my God. So this is the third time today that C-130s have flown over my house.
Really?
Like low enough to see the pilot flown over my house.
Holy crap, dude.
C-130 is a pretty large aircraft.
Yeah.
And for them to be flying that low, like seriously that low.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I thought they were making an emergency landing up on Southern Gap. That's how low they're flying.
That's nuts, dude.
That's the third time.
Maybe they're just tracking you. Maybe they're getting ready to.
Oh shit, son! They know about the mushrooms. Oh god.
But no, when Carpenter was asked about the inspiration for Michael Myers, he said that when he was in college, his college class had taken a trip to a psychiatric institution for youth in Western Kentucky. You know, it was part of their whatever class it was in, probably psychology. I mean, I could only guess.
Yeah.
But they took a trip to a mental health institute for the youth in Western Kentucky. And he said while he was there, that they were, you know, kind of just mingling with some of the patients and talking with them and, you know, all these different things. And that he sat down and he said it was a 12 to 13, you know, somewhere in that age, year old boy, that when he sat down beside of him and started talking to him, that his eyes were just, there was nothing there. It was just blank darkness. He said, you know, I know that it's not right. He said, but from the moment I sat down with him, all I could see was evil in his eyes. Like
There.
he had the devil's eyes. And then that became the whole, according to Carpenter, that became the whole basis for
Michael Myers.
So
Now listen, drawing off of that, my wife's in nursing school.
mm-hmm.
She's done a couple of rounds over in Russell County at the mental ward. Well, the last 2 times she was there, there's a lady in there, and my wife is terrified of her. So she would literally get to where she's almost kissing her, that close to Ashley's face. Whenever Ashley's there, she does this to her every time. She gets as close as she can to Ashley's face and just fucking stands there. And Ashley says there is nothing in her eyes. She said she's like, you know how people's eyes are alive, you know, when they're talking.
Nothing there.
There is nothing. Might as well be 2 blank spots. And she says, that woman terrifies me. And the last time she was there, this lady told her to have a nice day as she was leaving, but never took her eyes off of her.
Well, now I know that I've mentioned it a couple times on here. I can't ever really go into specific details, but you know, I worked at a maximum security correctional facility for almost a decade. And while I was there, you know, we did house a handful of serial killers. I mean, you know, it's maximum security, level S. You got the worst of the worst. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. So, y'all know me. I've always been interested in that. You know, I've never been a huge fan of true crime. Okay, I've never been a huge fan of all the gory details that go along with it. Like, that's not what I listen to any of that stuff about or for. I hate the glorification of these monsters. I do. I hate it because I can tell you from firsthand experience, these monsters, they get arrogant. They feel like they're celebrities.
Yeah.
They know that everybody's talking about them. They know that they are frontline news and conversation around the water coolers, and like, they know all this stuff. They know how many reporters and investigative journalists are calling in trying to talk to them, you know, all this different stuff, and they'll let you know. But just in those conversations, just talking about the eyes, the actual serial killers that I've spent time with, had conversations with, you can always see it in the eyes, man. Always. Like, they will say just some of the, like, to me and you, it would be normal conversation. But when they say it, you know, there's nothing there. It's just a totally it's just dead. Like there's nothing there, no form of empathy, no form of like there's no conscience.
Yeah. I'll watch any interview with my favorite serial killer, Mr. Ed Kemper. Mother. But mother, why? But when he speaks, man, he's so matter of fact and just lays it out. Well, yeah, when I killed them and then I put her head on a spike and then I did this to it. So I think it was this. I think this is the reason I was doing it, bloody blood. Jesus Christ, you freaking maniac.
You know, that's the same way Dahmer was. Like he sat down and was just matter of factly giving all the details. And, you know, I know that Dahmer is huge in our society right now because the new Netflix show.
Evan Peters fucking blew him out.
Yeah. But you know, that's how a lot of these guys that's how a lot of these guys are. You know, they just it's like they don't care, you know, or not so much that they don't care, it's just that
they obviously don't care.
Right. I mean, it's like there's no remorse. There's they feel like they were either in the right or they never had a choice. You know,
did you see that study done by that one psychiatrist where he was doing all these CAT scans of these serial killers? And then he did one of his class. Yeah. And there's all this thing on a brain scan in a serial killer. There's always a certain area of the brain that's lit up. Right. And he's like identifying it. May be, you know, on when they blow the picture of it, it looks big, but it may just be a little tiny part of your brain. I don't know. But he was talking about that. So him and all his students freaking do it. And as they're going through the images, they find one. The same brain scan looks like it's one of the freaking psychopath serial killers and turns out to be his own. Ain't that some shit? Like, well, Professor, I think we need to go ahead and shut this down now.
Well, you know, Ryan, I think you're kind of heading into an important topic right now. And yeah, I know we're getting away from the story and all that stuff, but I think that it's important. It's the whole nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
You know, are people that commit these kinds of atrocities, you know, people like Ed Kemper, who it's funny you mentioned Ed Kemper first because his size is also said to be kind of the inspiration to Michael Myers.
Yes.
His size and strength. But you know, people like Ed Kemper, Ed Gein, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, some of these people, the prolific, some of the literal atrocities that they committed against other human beings. Were they born like that?
I think so. Look at Dahmer's parents, Bundy's parents, both of them. They were both raised in Christian households, like just normal family, like Christian households, you know, raised on these certain standards. But something in their brain was freaking different. It's what we were talking about before any of this, dude. Mental health awareness. It's important, not just for your own health. It's important for other people's health too. Like you could be a psychopath. We don't know.
Is there really truly a way to quantifiably measure morality? Right? I mean, who is it? Who says fuck is a bad word?
Right, exactly. Who determines what word in the English language is not correct, not supposed to be used? Who decided that?
That's my point, right? Because you can't. I mean, what you may think is not that bad, I think is okay, and Justin may think is perfectly normal.
To them,
we can study hypothalamuses, we can study brain stems, and they can do all. And there's definitely commonalities in all the guys we're talking about, these monsters we're talking about. They find obviously commonalities in their brain chemistry or whatever. But when it comes down to like making that decision to actually have to do these terrible things to somebody, you can't quantify morality.
No.
There's no way to judge that. There's no way to say what's the line, what's too far, or what's okay. And then with that becomes, that's the one part of the human psyche that we will never be able to actually measure and test and study, because it's such a broad spectrum of what people think and consider. It's all perceptive, right? And Dahmer didn't think what he was doing was, maybe thought it was wrong to a degree, but even the stuff he was doing, obviously there was something there that said, this is okay, or he wouldn't have done it, right? I mean, the same thing with all these people. So I don't know. It's, yes, mental health awareness, all this stuff is super, super important. And I think the more that, one good thing about this, I'm not a big fan of true crime either. I don't like seeing the glorification of these guys. That's why I didn't watch Dahmer. That's why, I just don't have any desire to do that, because I don't want to be another cog in the machine of giving these guys some extra press that they don't deserve.
No.
But it's probably some of the fascination of the populace for watching all this stuff, is because it is such a taboo, terrible thing that we can kind of look at and enjoy from a surface value and see, oh man, this guy was so awful. But I mean, even you think about Bundy, like, how many times did he was a freaking celebrity? Like, women were like throwing themselves at him as he was going on trial and in jail and stuff, because of
married him on death row,
because he's terrible,
got pregnant by him,
all of this stuff. So we can say, yes, mental health awareness is super important. And I know that's where I was going with this. The fact that these shows are coming on, I think, has helped shed light on more trying to make normal the fact that mentally people just aren't okay. And that's okay. Let's figure out how we can fix it, right? Let's figure out what they need to fix it.
Exactly.
At a certain point, if think it's not that bad, and I want to dip my toes in the water, and the water feels pretty good, I'm going to keep getting further and further in. It's okay to me, but it's not okay to you. We can't quantify morality. And that's one of those things that we'll never be able to completely with the reason why.
I'm glad you came back to that. That's something that I have pondered that for so long. Like, let's think about, okay, let's picture in our minds the entire earth here, and not different races, black, white, Asian. Let's just think the human race. And we determine this is what's more morally correct, and every single one out of all you billions of people on this earth are going to abide by this. Everybody's who sets the definition of morality? Who said fuck was a bad word to begin with? We know where shit came from. The shites, whatever, over in Europe, their name was mud or whatever.
And this is where this becomes a faith-based conversation, right? Because now we get to this point: who sets morality?
Well, that defines your morality. That doesn't define everybody's morality. So what you find wrong doesn't mean somebody else will find.
But exactly right. That's the point I'm trying to make. Then this is where this turns into not a religious conversation, but a faith-based conversation, which now I have certain guidelines that the Bible tells me what's right and wrong, right? And that's that is what I mirror my morality after, or try to. I don't obviously don't do that, but that's the goal for me. Or that's how I try to mirror this. Everybody's not that way, right? Even in just a Christian faith, Catholic faith, Muslim faith, whatever. It's even in there you have variation of things that are different. Okay, but there are, I guess, a general set of ideas or general set of guidelines that we think that, like, for the most part, for the majority of those billions of people that you're just mentioned, like, we all know that killing somebody is bad.
Well, obviously, that's like the ultimate. That's what I was going to say. Also, like, with us. Now, we're in a bad situation with a parent or a grandparent, so just like our boy Ed Kemper, we would just remove ourselves from that situation. Like, I'm just not even going to fucking talk to these people anymore. They're driving me crazy. In his mind, he's perfectly happy where he's at. This is his home. They are the problem, not him. They are the source of all this pain, so I'll just get rid of that. And that's how he determined the solution there and found no problem as morally with it.
But you also have people like Ed Kemper, though, too, that might come out and say these things, or, make it seem like this, but he goes to psychiatric unit after psychiatric unit and plays the good guy role every time he gets in. That's the thing that we miss in a lot of this.
They learned their lesson with him.
Well, I mean, eventually.
No, after the first time.
He was like psychiatry assistants. He was going in and doing all this different stuff.
I mean, he's still doing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what these dudes do. That's what, I mean, they manipulate. They're such great manipulators. So in that tells me that they're intelligent enough to understand the emotions, the personalities, the behaviors, they understand what to do to make themselves likable and to make themselves become a way more productive predator. So in doing that though, but in doing that though, there's a piece there that tells me, okay, they know what they're doing here, even if their own mind. To me, it's more, it's not so much of a moral thing to them, because they know it's wrong. They know what they're doing. You can't tell me that these dudes know or don't know that what they're doing is wrong. To them, it's this urge to do outweighs the grief, the guilt, the whatever telling me that this is wrong. Just like, for instance, just as an example, an addict, okay? Somebody addicted to, whatever drug it is out there.
Mushrooms?
Right? Well, no, I'm not going to say mushrooms.
No, they're not addictive.
Let's just say, let's say painkillers or meth. We'll just use meth.
Yeah.
We like to talk about meth on here quite a bit. Say that somebody's addicted to meth. Okay. They're a mother. All right. Social services comes in once, twice, 3 times, keeps drug testing them, telling them, hey, if you don't clean yourself up and pass this drug test, we're taking your kids. Now, this mother may love those kids.
Yeah.
She may be, when she's sober-minded, she may love these kids and care for these kids and do everything that she can do for these kids. But
those kids lose every time.
The majority of the time, that mother is going to choose that meth over those kids when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why? It's not that it's not because morally she thinks what she's doing is okay, because she knows it's not. The need for this meth, the urge that this meth brings outweighs the wrongness in her mind. That sense of pleasure, that feel good, outweighs everything else in the world in that moment. That's what I think is at the basis of all of these serial killers, because you see it's all some sort of satisfaction, whether it be sexual gratification or whatever.
I don't know that it's so much that they know it's wrong, that they just know it's illegal, and that if they get caught, they're going to end up in prison. Nobody wants to go to prison. Let's go back to Ed Kemper again. They didn't catch him.
Oh no, he told on himself. Yeah.
Now he said because he would have kept going, right?
Which tells me
to display this man has no idea how to be a normal human being. All he knows how to do is imitate what people want to see. But he's also a super fucking genius.
But you also see a lot of these dudes that, and I keep saying dudes, but I mean, there's women serial killers too. I mean, the percentages aren't quite there.
When we say dudes, it's just for everybody.
Yeah, dudes is everybody. Yeah. You see a lot of times too, like, and this is where the nurture part comes into it. A lot of times, I'm going to say majority of the times, they've had a rough upbringing, man. Like, It's been bad. Like, their parents abused them. They're in and out of like different foster homes. They're molested. They're what you usually have in these serial killer cases. You have terrible childhood trauma plus traumatic brain injury equals weird sadist ideology.
Yeah. Doesn't always have to be a traumatic brain injury.
But you'll see that a whole lot.
You will see that a whole lot, yes. which also tells you something's fucking broken. Like, can it be fixed? Like everything we can treat insomnia, we can treat dyslexia, we can treat psychosis. You know, I have a family member right now on antipsychotics, and they have to take them.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what they have to do. Somebody with diabetes has to take insulin. It's the same thing. These people are broken, man. But that's what I was talking about with him. These people are good at imitating. Like, I think when he turned himself in, that it was all a part of another act. I think he was trying to see if he could do it again. I think he was trying to see if he could beat the system again. I wasn't going to stop. That's why I turned myself in. I feel guilty. I feel bad for what I've done. Okay, here I am. I admit to all of it. Now he's going to go back to these psychological courses with these shrinks and all this. I think he was trying to beat him again, or just to see if he could do it. I think it was just a game to him.
And that's very possible because you see in these sociopaths, in this behavior, they're totally 100% completely narcissistic. Okay. And what does a narcissist think all the time?
Smartest person in the room.
I'm right. I'm always right. I'm the smartest person in the room. Everybody else around me is dumber than me. Everything that's going on is their fault. I'm never at fault for anything. Everything that I'm doing and acting on is because of the actions of somebody else. And if they're in a situation, they know that they can manipulate and lie themselves out of it every single time, or at least that's what they believe.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, that very well could be possible. But see, that's my angle on this whole side of the conversation when it comes to serial killers, you know, sociopathic behavior. You know, I don't love the true crime aspect. I already said that. For me, it's the psychology part of it.
Yes, it's a study.
Psychology for me is so interesting because there's so little that we know about the human brain. There's so little that you see these things, just like my daughter. You know, we started this talking about the Energy in Action podcast that I went on, you know, earlier or last week. Just like my daughter Riley right now, she has scarring on the right side of her brain. So in turn, that affects the left side of her body. She'll have these episodes, we call them, to where she literally looks like a stroke victim. She loses control of her left leg. She loses control of her left arm. Sometimes she loses trunk control. She does all of these different things. Now, we see, and Ryan, you know how many doctor's visits we make throughout a year. I mean, she has an entire team of doctors at UVA that monitor everything that she does, everything, including to, you know, what she, you know, her calorie intake or protein intake, all these different things. So she has a entire genetics team that's looking after her. She has a neurologist that's looking after her. She has all these different people looking after her. Now, you sit down and you see this scarring on the basal ganglia part of the brain, and you ask a neurologist, okay, here's where it's at. We know that it's affecting her motor control. What else is it affecting? What's it affecting personality-wise? What is it affecting cognitive, you know, cognition-wise? What is it affecting behavior-wise? We don't know. We don't know. There's so much about the brain that nobody knows, that even, you know, top neurologists in their field, neurosurgeons, they can't say for certain, for sure, just because it's on this part of the brain and it looks like this and this is what it does. We can tell you what this part of the brain does. We can tell you that, you know, there's a possibility that A, B, C, and D could happen. But we cannot tell you that because she's acting like this or behaving like this or speaking like this, we can't tell you for sure it's because of that.
Yeah.
And see, and for me, and I'm just using her as an example because obviously that's personal for me, and that's something that I can relate to there. But it's the same thing with these guys. I'm not saying that Riley's going to grow up and be a serial killer. Good God, let's hope not. But there's so much. You talk about these traumatic brain injuries. What happens there? What gets broken? What gets messed up that causes these things to happen? Causes these urges. I don't know. The psychology part for me is extremely interesting. So I kind of straddle both sides of the fence here on the whole nature versus nurture thing. I believe that some people are probably born just inherently have something off, something there that's just not right. Now, do I think that it's bad enough to commit the act, for the urges to commit the acts that they commit? No, I don't. I still think that each of us have a choice. I have urges every single day.
Oh, absolutely. But I agree with you, dude. I mean, I'm not saying, people's brains being broken is the only reason. I agree with you 100%. Situations can turn people, good people.
Yeah.
Little kids who never stood a fucking chance,
Yep.
into killers and just fighting for something they believe in, whether it's important to anybody else or not, or just their little group, like gang members, anything like that. It's situational too. Like that's,
well, I mean, even getting away from the serial killer route of it, because a serial killer, that's it's classified as somebody who's killed like 3
come talk to us
or more people. But just talking about people that snap, people that snap and commit murder.
Yeah.
There's a trigger there, and sometimes that's people who probably have never, but like you said, it's situational.
Yeah.
Some people are put in a situation sometimes where they feel like, or are compelled, that's the only thing that they can do. That's
what? Let's leave the United States. Let's get out of this country and not just talk about inner city youth or country bumpkin youth. Let's go to Africa. Let's go to Russia. It's a completely different. It's where you're at. I mean, it's your upbringing, and so define morality over there. 2 different tribes in Africa. Define morality there.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're right. It's based on upbringing. It's based on culture. It's based on
that's based on
it's based on what's being instilled into you from the time that you're a small human.
Yeah. And let's face it, Dahmer was one of the worst serial killers. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
If he didn't eat people, we wouldn't even be talking about him.
You're probably right. Well, we would probably be talking about him, but he wouldn't have that shock factor that he does.
Exactly. There are plenty of cannibals out there, folks. Plenty of cannibals. Oh, man. We've almost not mentioned our favorite serial killer. Showbiz. Albert Fish. Man, that crazy motherfucker.
That's how we do it in Hollywood.
He used to eat shit and drink piss, literally. Called it peanut butter and apple cider. Butter. No, Dan Cummins calls it peanut butter.
I like that part better.
Give me some of that sweet peanut butter. But peanut butter and apple cider. And he liked the men. Much like Jeffrey Dahmer. This motherfucker was a sicko.
Yeah. So, but what we're looking at right here, we can talk about the inspiration for John Carpenter's portrayal of Michael Myers.
Were we talking about that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to loop this all back around. it's led to this conversation, right?
It has.
Just us mentioning Michael Myers has led to this conversation. So wouldn't all of this be inspiration for John Carpenter's portrayal of Michael Myers?
That you could draw from each one of them, freaking make the character you want out of several different serial killers. I mean, life itself is crazy enough to draw up a whole story like Halloween.
And here's the thing, like back to that story just really quickly, talking about how the nurse switched the babies up from the get-go. I was like, does that really happen? Like I know that we hear that, but is that more just like myth? So I looked up the stats on it. About 28,000 children are mistakenly switched at some point when they're in the hospital out of every 4 million births, which cuts everything down to about a 1 in 1,000 chance that it's going to happen. So it does happen,
which is ridiculous. That's a lot.
Now, the majority of the time it's figured out, before like people were going home with the wrong babies.
Actually, I have questions. This baby has cornrows. Like this. I don't think it's mine. I'm just saying, I love it. Just be honest.
So that does happen. All right. And just that whole thing there, like that's, if you're looking at that story, that's the whole nurture angle. Now, if that story is true, and at some point John Carpenter heard that, yeah. But even without that, another little rabbit hole I dug down was, okay, how many kids kill their family? Just go dive into that one when you got a few minutes.
Dude, there's a whole show called Killer Kids.
Yeah.
And it is nutso. Like, it makes you think. Like, man, I'm glad I got some good ass kids. I hope I got some good ass kids.
Well, it makes me start questioning my own kids.
Like, I think I got mine afraid enough though. Like, I'll fuck you up. You come at me. That's
means
I've never hit my
that means they've got you right where they want.
No.
Yeah,
they're just going. This dude thinks he's got us.
They're just going to strike quick. They're just going to strike quick.
Take you 3 more gummies, Dad. Here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I love my kids. I think they love me too. That is a scary thought, though, that you could send something out into the world that has everybody fooled and you had no idea. Like, I do feel bad for the parents of these people, and that they're just crucified by the public. Like, how, if my kid goes out and eats a bunch of y'all's kids, it's not my fault. I didn't raise him to do that. I've never eaten anybody
that we know of.
That wasn't requested. Hello, ladies. But
let me make one more statement before we kind of slide past this.
Okay, go ahead.
Waiting you guys to get done. I think we go back to the psyche of serial killers. That was good. That one got me around. It was a good pop. We go back to the psyche of serial killers. I think that we try to figure out what's broken, what's causing all stuff, can't quantify morality. But they know what's right, they know what's wrong, they just do it anyway. So I think that humans, all of us, are inherently evil. We're all bad.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that we three, just because we're in front of each other, we make conscious decisions every day to not do the bad things.
Yes.
Like kill people.
Yeah, I think these guys, and you kind of most of the time see it, like little small steps that just continue to get more and more evil, because the little thing that was kind of bad at first, they didn't say no to, they said yes to, and it didn't really bother them that much. And it just continues to build and build and build. So they don't have those conscious decisions that they have to make where we fight off these urges and don't do the bad stuff and do the good stuff. Well, these guys just feed into those urges because they're inherently evil anyways. And they just don't make any decisions as they're growing up, or they have terrible situations or whatever. But when these decisions come that are, do I do the bad thing or do the good thing? To put it simply, they choose to do the bad thing. and they become less and less. They become more and more numb to the effects of choosing the bad thing.
Yeah,
You're exactly
I agree.
right.
I agree with that.
They don't see it inherently as bad. And to them, it's like a normal. By that point,
or they become so immune to.
They're just, it's normalized.
Yeah, right.
The new normal, like everybody likes to say during COVID times. It's the new normal. I kill people now. It's the new normal.
Well, I mean, you think about it. Think about it. And just like Lance is talking about it, this becomes in a lot of these situations. Yeah, we're talking psychology. Yeah, we're talking upbringing and culture and all these different things. But part of upbringing, you dive into a faith-based conversation. What morals are people being taught? Now we know that God and his people pretty much, well, really early on, okay, hey, look, here's the 10 Commandments. He's giving them to Moses up whenever he brings his people out of Egypt. He's giving them Moses is on the mountain. These 10 Commandments, this is a moral code, given by God. You take that moral code and you look at them, and it's pretty much covering all of the everything that we look at as being dead wrong in society. You can pretty much find them there. Don't steal, don't kill, don't envy, don't lust, all the things, don't covet another man's wife, all these things that we look at in society as wrong, you can find them there. So again, when you're going into this, these people may not believe, but that code has been what has built society, is those commandments. I mean, whether you want to say, well, they may not believe in God, or they may not have the Christian beliefs, or I don't think there's any culture in the world that thinks going around killing people is a good thing.
That's not true. You've never met Mongolians back in the day. That was Genghis Khan didn't give a shit.
Well, they still knew it was wrong. It was just for benefit and profit.
So okay, just to take us down a peg or two, let's think about before 9/11 happened. Okay, we're talking about murdering, morality, everything like that. Before 9/11 happened, let's picture this. Let's picture America is not as powerful what it is, but Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, they are. Now all of a sudden, we have Saudi and Afghan bases all over our country, and they don't give a shit. We're in turmoil. We're at war all the time. Women and children, men, they're dying. Children are starving to death. This is all you see. And the only reason Saudi and Afghans are over here is because they're wanting a precious commodity that we have in this country. And that's all they give a shit about. They're not there to liberate anybody. They're not there to help us.
You mean kind of like what we did in the Middle East?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
But when 9/11 happens, what do we do? Now, am I downplaying 9/11? No. Am I saying that it's justified? No. I'm saying if you were them and that's what you witnessed your whole life and you had the means to attack these people some way, would you not? Where does morality come in war and anything else, or when we need something that another country has? We'll justify it with weapons of mass destruction or whatever else we got to justify it for.
Well, then we're getting into a conversation, though, of how the elites, well, you're getting into a conversation of how the elites think. Like, I don't think either one of us sitting here right now, because we've been slighted by an individual or a group of people, are going to go find a bunch of innocents that are tied to them and slaughter them.
Yeah. Why does free market trade have to come with somebody dictating everything? Why does America have to have its thumb on everything? How about this, America? How about you just open up free trade, let them do what the fuck they want to. We'll do whatever the fuck we want to over here. We'll keep prospering. If they want to fight, blow each other up, that's fine.
Well, I'll tell you why you have to do it, because they hold all the opium fields. And if you're going to make bank on the pharmaceutical side of business, which is what this country is ran by now, is corporations and pharmaceuticals, then you have to have control of the oil and control of the poppy fields.
So again, morality.
So the guys that hijacked the planes and flew them into the buildings, did they think that was wrong?
They probably felt justified in their actions. I couldn't imagine killing myself in a mission without feeling justified about it.
Well, that's the thing. That's the bottom line question in all of this. Based on the individual, what's right and what's wrong. And I think what we've discovered through looking down all these different avenues is everything is based on your own personal perception.
Yeah.
Now,
that's just how, I mean, that's my take on it. Like,
but I also think,
and look, because when it first happened, I was just gung ho, kill them all. Fuck you for coming in here and doing this to us. How dare you touch American soil? We've blown them all to hell.
Yeah.
If they don't do something we like, we go straight over there and police their country.
Yep. Try to push everything, all of our culture on them.
That's like me leaving my house, going down to my neighbors, walking through to make sure they got everything the way I want it, and then coming back. And if they don't, fucking them up before I leave. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But again, I think you're going back to the individual.
Well,
now we can say here
the elitists and all that. I'm just talking about morality as a whole.
Well, yeah, I know.
As a species, human
I know,
beings.
and I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about just a mass casualty situation like that. Not one single person or like a regular, ordinary, common person is able to set something like that up.
But I mean, going back to the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
And I've said this a million times to people in my family that are huge in their Christian faith, but I can see them watch a trial on TV, give him the chair. Who are we, even as judges, and no matter what anybody else does in this world, if you go off of the Christian faith, who are we to determine who lives or dies? It says, thou shalt not kill. No, that doesn't say unless they killed somebody or unless they did this. It just says thou shalt not kill. What are you doing in war? What are you doing when you put somebody in the electric chair or lethal injection? To me, going by the commandments, you can't be in support of capital punishment and like hope for somebody to get the chair. Like, that shows you the true character of a person. Not when they're sitting in a pew on Sunday with their hands raised or clapping along to a song. It's when they're in private and having a discussion that they don't even realize that they're being this open, or to give that man the chair, or we ought to go over there and, let's face it, Bible belters, we're the number one people to join the military and go right to war and shoot them all, kill them all. America. Woo!
Well, I'm
Take
not a
your
fan.
Bible over there to the desert and kill them heathens.
I'm not a fan of
That's what I'm
war of any kind
No.
at all, ever.
Let me jump in and just put to the side of this. The Ten Commandments do say, "Thou shalt not kill." You can find in several places in Scripture that also says an eye for an eye. So at what
Doesn't
point?
God himself say, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord?
Absolutely, but and you're exactly right. Then there's also a ton of Levitical law right there that also was written by Moses, who was given to him from God, that says, if you're with another man, take him out and stone him. Or if your man's with another woman, take him out and stone him, or castrate him, or there's things that cut their hands off, or whatever.
We're talking Old Testament, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is what the Ten Commandments is based on, right? So, yeah, I mean,
I don't think those laws change just because Jesus died on the cross. Correct? We still live by the commandments. And if you watch History of the World Part 2 by Mel Brooks, there was 15, but Moses dropped
actually,
one.
Ryan, there's a bit of a religious discussion to say that we're no longer living under the law, we're living under grace because Christ died on the cross. So, per old school Jews, yes, they still live by the law, but they don't accept Christ as being the Messiah. But for us as Christians, we no longer live under the law; we're living under grace because Christ did die, right? And that was the changing of the guard. Essentially, there's no more need for sacrifice because Christ became the official one, right? So then we follow up that by saying, then God does say, "Vengeance is mine," saith the Lord. Right? He will in time, in His due time, He will take care of what He sees
whether
fit.
It's here or on the other side.
Whether it's here or wherever it is, it's His job to do that, right?
But it's not our place to determine when that happens.
Correct.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, when is it ever morally correct to decide somebody should die? I don't feel like that should be anything another human being would have power over.
But then we just spent the last hour talking about people who thought they had enough power to kill people.
I know. I'm not saying it was right. They did kill people. And I'm saying they're wrong.
Right, but should there not be consequences for those actions?
That's what prisons are for. I'm saying we determine whether they live or die. That's a human life. That's still a soul.
But they have done the exact same thing.
It doesn't matter. Are you not the same if you make the same judgment? Are you not the same as the blood nut on your hands if you make that call? And they die and go to hell because they didn't live and didn't meet the right person to show them the way to redemption that was meant to show them because you judged them to die. I'm just saying, look at every aspect of it. I've been thinking about this for a long ass time. So these are questions I've always had. Like, how can we as a Christian person sit down and root for somebody to get the chair, lethal injection, that they ought to get that, or talk about going overseas and blowing somebody up, and you don't even know what the hell is actually going on. You just know what the American media is feeding you. That's all facts. You know. And that's all I'm saying is, are you not the same as those persons if you yourself cast the same judgment and have them killed? Where's the dip? Because you were on the moral upstanding side according to human beings? Does that make it okay? Like, you guys could root me on to freaking go out and have an affair, but that would be and then be, high five, you had an affair, but that would be a terrible thing to do. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Opens up. Look, it opens up a conversation all the way around, because again, you're diving into perception. You're diving into everything that you've been taught, everything that you've been brought up believing. Even when you are looking at scripture, just like Lance said, yeah, you have the 10 Commandments to say thou shalt not kill, yet you also have God declaring Joshua to go in and...
Guys, seriously, watch History of the World Part 2. My children, I have 10 commandments to live by.
but
Mel Brooks is a genius.
you do have different actions there. So that makes for a great conversation all the way around. And Ryan, if you want to get into war and the American Empire, that's like
That's
a
another
whole other
episode.
podcast. Well,
That's
a
a whole
other
other
podcast we could do. No
I have decided though, if this gives me this kind of energy, this is what I'm doing before we go on Tony's show. I'm taking that baggie on the road, and I'm eating them about 30 minutes before we get there. And then it's no holds barred.
Okay, let me ask a question. And y'all might roll your eyes at it, but it's kind of what we dive into and what we talk about.
Portals.
Bigfoot. It's aliens.
Portals.
How many of these people do you think A, were possessed, or B, were doing these acts to appease some entity?
All of them.
I think they were all just psychologically damaged.
No,
I don't think they were.
You said all. You
I
said
dis-
all of.
I will disagree with that. I'll say all of them.
You think they were all possessed?
He didn't say possessed.
I said A, possessed.
Yeah.
Or satisfying some evil entity.
Well, the evil entity would be their own gratification.
Not necessarily.
Okay, Lance, clarify.
I think it goes back to the fact that all of these individuals are evil because of the evil things that they did. And you don't do evil things unless you are trying to serve an evil master. Now, let me finish. Do I think that they are all possessed? No, maybe. Do I think that all of them have evil pressure put on them that caused them to do these things? Absolutely.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
Again, though, that's perception of morality, which you're entitled to, your own opinion, but that's your perception of morality. That's evil. How did they perceive it? I don't think they were appeasing some entity. I think it was own sexual or selfish, we'll say, gratification of a disabled mind. And as far as Ed Kemper goes, the man was he's a freaking genius. What was his IQ level? Like
in the 180s, I think.
Yeah, 180s or
180s.
190. It's nuts. Like, what was Einstein? Like 162?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Einstein was stupid, though.
This guy's
dummy.
Dumbass. E equals MC dumbass. That's what that is. No, he's a pretty smart dude. Anyhow, Ed Kemper's a freaking genius, dude. I think simply it was a game. I don't think any of these people were. I mean, look at Dahmer. I don't know why he ate the victims. That's a psychological thing. But as far as everything else, it was sexual gratification. And that was part of that freaking fantasy he wanted to be in on. And for some reason, his warped ass mind took it to that next level.
But you do have people like Bundy who claimed that there was an entity in control, that everything that he did was because he was hearing from this entity and was trying to feed this force.
I'm going to ask y'all this. If you killed a shit ton of people and you're facing death or mental ward, what are you going to start saying?
But you can say that about everything that they've said.
Exactly.
If that's the way that we want to look at it, then everything that these people have said.
I'm going to take them having any kind of religious anything and throw that out the window. They're obviously not following any religion by its code.
You don't have to follow religion to have evil.
Well, I mean, no.
Or you could follow a religion and be
Sure.
evil.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, of
you
course.
can have both. But let's think about the Amish dude. What's his name? Ed something.
There's a bunch of Eds.
Yeah, there are a lot of Eds.
Don't name your kid.
I'm not
Ed.
talking about the one that bowled with Woody Harrelson. I'm talking about. Wait, that was Cousin Eddie. His name wasn't Eddie in that movie. Anywho, look at that one dude, Ed something. He was psychologically freaking broken and ended up murdering his wife with his own fist to the point that they couldn't tell who she was. And then held his little girl's hand while he gave his son a piggyback ride up on his shoulders, walking down the road like nothing in the world was ever wrong.
Ed Gingrich.
Yes, Ed Gingrich. I mean, that kind of shit. I think when psychological disorders come into play, it's not evil. I don't think they're satisfying some evil entity. They're not worshiping Lilith or Pan or Satan or the alien overlords. I don't think it has anything to do with demonic anything. I think it's just freaking shit they say to try to get off, or they're like Ed Gingrich and they're just legit crazy.
On the other side of that, I think that a scientific standpoint or a clinical standpoint, we oftentimes try to explain away people who act evil by saying they have some type of mental issue. I think it's an easy caveat to say, oh, this person wasn't, because it removes it removes their responsibility for what they did. They can blame it on a mental issue. When you remove the responsibility,
nobody's taking away responsibility for their actions.
You just that's what you right. No, but you just said that they didn't like that they're just crazy. They had a mental break, and that's why they did those things. And to them it wasn't wrong. To them it wasn't. It was just them satisfying a fantasy or satisfying a desire. Well, on the other side of that, I can then completely remove myself from personal responsibility by saying, you know what, I had this episode. Let's say I go crazy tonight and I go in there and do something to my three beautiful ladies in there, right? And then I wake up tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I had a mental break, and I didn't mean to. I had this mental break, and now because of this mental break, then I don't want to have to face the consequences of what I've done. I think it's a fine line that we're dancing here, and that we want to just automatically blanket cover all of these poor decisions and saying these people have had mental problems that have caused them to do this. And that allows us, as we're talking about this, and them to then kind of pull away some of the personal responsibility of, hey, Dahmer he had to make the decision to kill those people.
I'm not taking away blame.
Bundy had to make the decision. He had to say, you know what? He had a choice in the moment before they stabbed him or bludgeoned him or whatever. He had the choice to make. Either I do this or I don't. And if I can blame it on a mental issue, I can take away personal responsibility.
But can anybody in their right mind actually continue to do things like that or take their own life? You really think a sane, normal, everyday person is just out there, just all of a sudden like, oh shit, I'm just going to start killing these for whatever entity?
How many demonic possessions that you have read or talked about or known have any of those people ever seemed sane?
I think they were all mental disabilities.
You saying there's absolutely zero demonic possession at all?
I'm saying that most of those exorcisms where people ended up dying because they weren't medically treated the correct way died because of the exorcisms and the shit they were put through, calling it a demon rather than going after what the actual cause of the illness was. That's like my son up here contracting some kind of mental disorder, and then my wife saying, oh, it must be Beelzebub. And I'm like, no, we need to get a doctor. But she calls in a couple of pastors, and then a week later, he's dehydrated, freaking dies, all this other shit, because they were performing exorcism to get rid of Beelzebub, but it was just a freaking illness. I don't know. All those major stories you hear, what is it, Annalise and all these other ones? No. I've never heard a recording of a demonic voice on there that a person couldn't do with their own vocal cords. That's just my opinion, though. That's me.
How do you explain away the cases of them speaking in different languages fluently that they have no idea or no background in, or
that people knew of?
So all of these people were just fluent in like 7 different languages.
I'm just saying, man. It's
or
were you there? Did you hear them speak it, or did they say?
Well,
they
no, but
it?
you have some of these.
Did the priests say they spoke several different?
Well,
languages?
you have some of these cases that you have like 20, 30, 40 plus witnesses, and not all within the church. Some in hospitals, some psychiatrists, psychologists.
I mean, right now we're talking about the #1 child molesting organization in the world, but they're out here casting out demons left and right. I don't think that's
hospitals and psychiatrists and doctors.
No. I'm just saying. I think it's mental. I don't think it's possessions and all that shit.
So you don't believe in demons?
I didn't say they weren't real. I just said I don't believe they possess people.
Well, if they're real, why would they not possess people?
How could they possess people?
Why did
Read the Bible? They possess people in the Bible. Jesus cast out demons. The apostles cast out demons.
Yeah. No, I just don't think it happens. It's just me. I don't think it happens. Just like you can't sell your soul. I don't believe your soul is your own to sell. So
I don't believe that you can sell your soul per se either. But
did they not say that your body is a temple? Correct.
Well, yeah. What happens? And Jesus also says that if you don't take care of that temple, and if you do
shrivel up and die, it'll husk away.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but he tells, and Lance, I mean, this is a little hazy for me, but he's talking about something along demonic possession or oppression, right? Whenever he's talking about sweeping the house, and if you, how did that go?
Isn't that just like when you're saved? You just those little things you always did that doesn't really click with the Christian faith. You should just be getting rid of those little things. Isn't that what they was talking about?
I think that Brian, I think that is actually
like a porn addiction or something like that. You can't keep going with that.
Removing the dust particles, get those things out of there to help.
Okay, yeah.
That's the way I took that.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I think it's correct.
That makes more sense too. I was just
let's not turn this into Ryan's an atheist and all this, because I'm not.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, and I appreciate.
I'm not saying that demons aren't real. I'm just saying,
but what I'm trying to understand, and that's all I'm trying to do here is understand how, if you believe that demons are real, why you wouldn't believe that they could have the power to possess a person.
Does it say in the Bible about demons on earth, or just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Satan.
The majority are on earth.
Where does it say that? I know Satan says he walks to and fro amongst the earth, devouring those whom he can.
Paul talks about in.
But again, this is based on off of one belief.
No, you look at a lot of different religions. You might not call them demons. They might be jinn. They might be whatever. But this is a worldwide belief when you're looking at the spiritual side of things.
I don't know. What I'm trying to say is all the major ones you've ever heard about, I don't believe they were possessions. I believe it was
Matthew 12:24, Revelations 12:9, Matthew 25:41. Those are a couple of specific references of demons being hurled on the earth. I just Googled it real quick for us, just so we'd have the references there. Sorry.
Okay. I don't have my KJV available. That. Oh, Lance, you might know this. I have a buddy who's a Christian, and he'll put up like a Bible verse or something like that, but then down in parentheses, he'll put ODB. What does that mean? Because I don't think Old Dirty Bastard said any of that.
What is what is his name? Is his name or don't or his initials ODB?
No. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I forgot to look that up the other day
Wait a
when you
minute.
asked.
Wait a minute. What's his first? No, his first name does not start with his last name starts with a B, but
Oh, Our Daily Bread is from Devotions.
Our daily bread. That
our
is
daily
yep,
bread.
Yep, that's right.
Justin, you big dumb stupid. You should have known that.
All right, guys. Well, you know what? This conversation has taken a totally different route than what I anticipated, but
Hey, do you need to get back to your story?
no, my story's done. We're
Oh,
good. We're
I
good.
don't feel half as bad now.
I
Now I
want
don't
to-
feel
want to at
morally
some point-
obligated to keep it going.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I want to at some point on an episode return to this concept, this idea of
I'm gonna do
demons being-
more shrooms.
yeah, demons being here, obviously being real. I think we'll all three agree that we all three agree believe that they are real.
For sure.
Okay, but then not possessing people. Like, I want to explore this more.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
more,
do it.
It's more your. I'm curious your thought process behind it.
Yeah.
I just think it's an
Too.
easy way out. You know, devil made me do it kind of thing.
See, and I think just the opposite, right? I think by blaming it on a mental issue is an easy way out.
Let's see. I think just saying the devil made me do it.
But
The
but
devil-
in a lot of these possession cases, they made them do what? Get super sick and like there's not many cases of these people that get possessed, like going and doing things that are terrible.
They're pretty much stuck in a bed. Their head twirls around. And they puke on everybody.
and let
and
me
they-
just make this statement too. I don't think the devil makes you do anything.
No, well, of course not.
I don't think these demons make. I never said they were possessed, and it didn't force these people to do these serial killers.
Well, if God has the power but refuses to make you worship him,
It influenced them to do this. They had the decision themselves.
I
that
feel like
will-
if God has the power that he can make you do whatever he wants, but refuses to do that, why would he give power to an entity opposite of him the ability to make you do anything?
Well, because he made those originally to worship him.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying he's not going to let them come down. He cast them out of heaven. He's not going to be like, oh, shit, I should have took that power first for that. Not too late now.
Like, I am fully on board with you, Ryan, by saying the devil made me do it as a scapegoat, an easy way out. I agree with that.
Yeah.
That is 100. I'm 100% on board with you there.
That was the point I was trying to make. Is I think
But
it's more mental than
right. And
worshiping of
but
something.
and I wasn't. Yeah, and maybe I wasn't clear. Like, I wasn't saying that let's say that let's just an example. Ted Bundy was demon possessed, and that's why he killed these people. That's not what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
But I was saying that I very much believe he had a demonic presence or an evilness about him that influenced him to make the decision to kill these people.
I think one of the best lines from any movie ever was The Dark Knight Rises when Alfred told Batman, "Some people just like to see the world burn."
Yep.
There's nothing more true than that. There are some people that would just rather see this world burn than anything else. And
I
like,
agree, absolutely.
Well, I agree with both of you. I believe they're both scapegoats. I believe that each and every single individual, regardless of how you were raised, regardless of what has happened to you in your life, regardless of what you were born with, I believe that each and every single person has decisions and choices to make all throughout their life. We all have different urges. Sometimes they get super weird. That doesn't mean we have to act on them. It doesn't mean, and for me,
oh, man,
for
never
me,
bought those butt plugs.
like for me, it goes to one of these things that if it was completely spiritual, oh, the devil made me do it, you would see a whole lot more people that's how they live their life, committing these atrocities and then saying the devil made me do it. If it had to do with a broken brain and not having the cognition to understand what you're doing, I believe that you would see a whole lot more people with these cognitive delays. With everybody that we've seen here and talked about tonight, we're super intelligent people.
Yes.
All right. We're not talking about people with developmental delays, cognitive delays, intellectual disabilities. That's not the people that we're talking about. So with a broken brain, if there was a large group of these people out committing these atrocities, then I could say, okay. But when it comes down to it, you're talking about sometimes above average intelligence, ordinary, everyday people who have been raised up just like, look, nobody has, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Everybody has it rough at some point.
Yeah.
Just because you can't use that. And that's the problem with me, is all the way around. When it comes down to it, these people are monsters because they made that decision each and every single time to act on these urges for their own personal satisfaction. There's a whole lot that I would love to do, that I have these urges to do that would make me feel real good in the moment. But I choose not to do them because the consequences of those things would be bad for me, for my situation, for my connection and walk with the Lord. So I choose not to.
Exactly. And everything you named there was something that could be taken away from you if you did those things. Not the fact that if I killed somebody, that other person's dead. The fact that, man, I go to prison, I lose my family, I'm going to piss the Lord off. Those are the things that are in your mind first, correct?
Yeah, of course. It's
And
me. I'm always looking out for number
that's
one.
just a normal, everyday working man opinion right there. But that's what your mind goes to. It's like, oh, shit, if I do this, my kids will be affected. This will be affected. Not the fact I just ruined a whole other family. You know, that wouldn't come into play till later. But in the moment, you're just thinking, me, myself, and mine.
Automatically.
We're all animals. We're all animals. And we all have basic instincts, do we not?
We do.
Self-preservation and reproduction. That's right. I said reproduction.
And I'm good. And I'm excellent at both.
Yeah. Well, I can't reproduce anymore. I took care of that shit.
Oh yeah, me too.
No more of these devil spawn for the world, Ryan. You better shut it off now. That
Speaking of shutting it off, it's about time we shut this thing. It's about time we shut this thing down.
Justin's tired. He hasn't slept this week.
This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed where this thing has went. I've enjoyed just sitting back listening to you boys for a lot of this. This don't happen a whole lot.
Sorry, man. I was talkative again.
No. Do not apologize. This was good. This was really good conversation.
I'm just saying.
I like playing mediator.
Probably gonna. Well, I better not say this live. I'll tell you boys after. I forgot we were cool.
Ryan, Lance, love you boys.
Love you guys.
Love you, mean it.
Love you, mean it.
Hill folk, happy Halloween. Be sure to go leave those sweet reviews and 5-star ratings. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all our social medias. Send us your stories. After, starting again next week, we're going to be getting guests back on here and hearing some more stories from the people that lived them. Do all the things. Share the show. Most importantly, more importantly than anything else, share the show. But do all the things. Do all the things that you want to do to see your Hill folk Chiefs here rise to the top, the cream of the crop in this whole pot. I'm gonna quit talking. I'm just rambling at this point.
I don't even know what you're trying to say. Like we lost all focus here.
Yeah,
the most important thing, Hill folk, share our shit, help us grow, and have a wonderful, safe, happy Halloween, you beautiful bastards.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
The end.
Hill folk. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.
Love you guys.
And happy Halloween.
Oh, wait.